Hello traders, everybody, welcome to today's webinar. Today, together with Olymp Trade, we are going to talk about the different market moving events, the G20 meeting, the OPEC meeting coming up today, starting in 54 minutes, where the price of oil is headed, where the price of gold could be headed, currencies, and of course the stock markets across the world. Today is a huge lesson. So I do want to check in with you guys to make sure that you guys can hear me and see me before we get started. Answer maybe a few questions. Hello, Jackie Romance. Shaban Khan, hello, my friend. Fatima, hello, good to see you. Really important webinar. I'm glad that you guys came here today. Today's webinar will help shape your trading for the week to come. Also, I want to give a warm shout out to everybody else who's new. If you're completely new here, please do visit our webinar on Thursday, where we will discuss all the details of the intricate details, as you can see, of using the Olymp Trade platform. It's actually really intuitive, and you will get a chance to learn how to use it from the very beginning. So Thursday is the webinar for you guys. Monday is where all of our elite traders come to get their market news and market information about what's going on in the world today. Now, I'm sure all of you guys know that on Friday and Saturday we had the G20 meeting. The G20 meeting is the top 20 countries that come together. They compose 80% of all of the world's consumption, production, and so on and so forth. And they, the number one thing that they discussed was trade wars, was the aggressive, there's two actually mentions on the agenda. One is trade wars, and the second is environmental effects of, the production that we have going on in present day. What I want to focus on together with you guys today is the economical side of the equation. Now, number one issue was the US-China trade relations. Trump did change the rhetoric a little bit early last week to be a little bit more inclusive, a little bit more friendly. But as I was reading the G20 meeting minutes, what we noticed, the analysts that we read together with, was that there was a lot of negative connotation towards countries like India. By the way, if we have anybody from India in chat, go ahead, give us a wave, just so that we know, and go ahead and write what city you're from. Guidos S, hello. Gabriel, welcome. Wamik Sheikh, hey, welcome. Good to see you. Samuel Agowi, Mukesh Dubey, Henrique, 1991. Good stuff. Yes. All right. So, India, Japan, and there's a little bit of Iran and Russia in the mix, and also the Eurozone. So there's a lot of pressure building up, and the United States is changing their eyes towards a different direction. Now, I want to keep the webinar very crisp and clear so we can talk about how we can make money. So, US and China trade deal is now on the table. At any moment, we could have good news talking about, that China and the US have lifted all tariffs and it's a beautiful world and everybody's happy. If that happens, what is going to happen? The S&P 500 is going to keep growing. So right now we are at the highest point that the S&P 500 has ever been in history. It is a pleasure to sit here with you guys and analyze this event with you guys. That's it. We've broken through and we have solidified. So this is in the lieu of the G20 meeting. Now, I do want you guys to keep in mind that this week is going to be a holiday, a market holiday in the United States. It's going to be the 4th of July. A lot of the markets are going to be offline. And what does that mean to US traders? Well, that means liquidity has dropped and volume has dropped as well. And what will that lead to? Well, that will lead to heavy volatility. So there's going to be a lot of jumping around without a lot of follow through. So in the week ahead, what we can expect is a short continuation of trends that are already in play, like we see here with the S&P 500, and also a correctionary sideways movement with the currencies that are currently in that area. What currencies do we have that are, feeling like that? Well, in the dollar crosses, we have the euro dollar. This currency is more likely to be range bound than trendy. Also, we have the pound dollar. Now, I will give you guys a currency to trade with the pound at the end of the webinar. So make sure you stick around so you can get a good trade idea and a good trade deal if the pound does decide to turn around in where it's going. But for the next little while, you can expect the pound and the euro to stay flat. There's not enough data on the menu for this week in order to move the currencies in any direction, nor are they close to any support resistance level meaningful, nor are they nor have they started to break out, which would entice us to pay attention. So that's number one on the agenda. Number two is during the G20 meeting, which ended on Saturday, we had the Eurozone, representatives from the Eurozone, make it quite clear that they are ready to circumvent the SWIFT system. Now, for those of you that are not aware what the SWIFT system is, it's basically the banking system. Like here, if we go to depositing or withdrawing, you use the SWIFT system anytime you use a bank card. So any kind of bank transfer where you have the name of the bank, you have a BIC code, you have like in your country there may be different codes that you use, but basically it's an international payment transfer system. Russia has already made moves to get off of the SWIFT system. The Eurozone, all of Europe, is next in line. They're creating their own, actually I'm not sure of the details if they're creating their own system, but basically a way to save themselves if the United States continues aggressive economic actions. Now, the US was really interesting the way that Donald Trump behaved, US President Donald Trump behaved during the G20. Yeah, Shaban Khan. I love the words "one good trade." Exactly. Those aren't my words. It's from a trading mentor of mine. His name is Mike Billafury. Really great guy. New York, owner of a prop trading firm. Made a lot of investments in me as a person and spent some time with me. So thank you to Mike. Donald Trump behaved very reserved. There wasn't a lot besides, you know, negative connotations toward Japan, India, and Europe. There really wasn't a lot of, you know, machismo, the bravismo that there was before. And at the end of the meeting, there was a lot of rhetoric of, you know, a global inclusion, economic inclusion. So what that means is that perhaps the United States is formulating other ways to be competitive in a globally retracting market, in a globally receding market. Lastly, what I want to point out to you guys is if we have a look at the S&P 500, so this is actually the yen. This is also something that I want to talk to you guys about. The yen has changed course and broken out through this level here. This is a daily graph on the dollar yen. So if the overall trend is sideways and this was a downtrend, an obvious downtrend, now we could be in for a continuation, a reversal. Now this EMA is a 50 EMA and this one, the teal, is a 200 EMA. So they're both really solid, but we could have our first move up to this level of 109. Right now we're currently at 108.200. Oh, exactly. I guessed that. That was a guess. And we can go all the way up to 109. So keep your eye out on the Japanese yen because it is one of those currencies that when it, you know, breaks through where we were before. So this is already the breakout. Let me see on the hourly time frame what we look like. So it's a gap and go. This looks like a gap and go. What we want to do when you want to get in on this trade, perhaps on a smaller time frame, is drop down like this kind of move. Can't last forever. And we want to wait and see until there's some sort of move. There's three levels that we want to break out. First is this previous lower high. Next is this level of support and resistance that, you know, was widely used. If we zoom out on the graph, it was widely used. This isn't the best graph to be doing that on, but right here, if we look, this level was used before, you know, as a breakout level for this move down and as a level of a breakout level in the opposite direction in the move up. So we want to watch for a break of that level. That will be a signal to us that the Japanese yen is in play, and we are in a correctionary phase for this currency that has actually been, growing much of this year. This is one of the more stable trends in the second quarter of this year. Sir, can show me how to draw trend channel and when to take place? Absolutely I can. So Wamik, that is a great question. Let's spend a little bit of time doing that. So what you want to do is open the compass here, scroll all the way down to trend line, and first of all you need to visually see the trend line. Right here, this is an obvious downtrend, and you only need 2 points. You need 2 points to make it. When we're drawing a downtrend, we're drawing it from the peaks, from the tops, and when we're going up, we're drawing it from the bottom, right? We're drawing it from the bottom up. So right now we're in a downtrend, and the reason we mark it on our graphs is because it is a very important tool for our trading. So I could have done it like this or like this. It's not a science, right? This is more of an estimate of where price is likely to behave a certain way. That's what we want. We want price to take action. And that's why we mark these things. So I tried to take something in the middle, right? So we take off a little bit of the top here, but then we don't necessarily touch the bottom here, and we touch exactly right here. So to me, that makes me feel better that all the data that we have an average. And that's one of the reasons why on all of my graphs you see simple moving averages, is because I like the average of the price. I'm not trying to catch the whole move from the beginning to the end. I just want, enough to feed myself and my family. So once we draw the top trend line, what you can do is draw a very similar line. So what we're doing here, this is a move that was taught to me a long time ago. It's more visual than it is actual or factual. So what we do is we take this trend line that we drew, and then we just drag it to the bottom. And because here we don't have the opportunity, actually they do touch. You can get these 2 levels here. And then we draw the trend line again, because we move that trend line and we want to be as scientific and as close to the actual right about there. So this is a channel. This is an exact channel. We take only the top line and then we drag it down to the bottom. Now that we have this channel, we now can analyze the way price action behaves. Right now, it is behaving with a really clear breakout. I mentioned this currency before last week when we were hugging the top, right? You can see that we didn't touch the bottom here, and there's a few candles at the top and they're looking pretty bullish, and we even had a false breakout right here. Whenever you have a false breakout and the next candle is a hammer pattern, right? We want to shoot up. You can kind of look at this candlestick pattern right here. With price did jump down there, but at the end there was a lot more commotion, a lot more desire, a lot more what's the right word? Just a lot more, pressure building upwards. And this candlestick pattern, that's when I mentioned, hey, we may have a breakout. And this Monday was a crazy day. So if you did wake up early, read the news about the G20 meeting, you could have had an opportunity to really speculate quite well on the Japanese yen. So I hope that helps you, Wamik. The trend line breakout, it doesn't mean it's a reversal. It absolutely could mean a reversal. It's just the start of a very high probability trade. When we have a breakout, that's when we know that, all right, now there's a really big probability that price is going to go one directional. And that's what we want. We want to increase the chance that we have in making a correct trade, a profitable trade. So I want to continue with what we have going on. Let's talk a little bit about where we are in time. Right now we are in the summer months, and I do want to bring out the indexes because this is one thing that I do want to show you and make sure that we don't get off of it. S&P 500 is now offering only 30% return on investment. It is breaking out to the top. This is all fine and dandy, but there's an indicator called the rest of the world indicator. It's an equity fund that includes stocks across the whole entire world. And you can see that as the US fell at the end of all of 2018, the rest of the US was in a sideways movement, right? It fell, it corrected, then it fell at the end of the year. And then in the start of 2019, as the US corrected, the rest of the world corrected. Now you can see that the US returned to highs. This was all-time highs of 2019 and 2018. Yep, right here. So it got past all-time highs of 2018, but the rest of the world didn't. Right? The rest of the world stood flat, and now there's a lot less conviction. So what does this give you as traders? Well, there's something that I want you guys to learn, and there's a way of analysis, right? There's technical analysis and there's fundamental analysis, but there's also market condition, analysis of market condition. What does that mean? That's the type of analysis that gives you the best kind of results, in my humble opinion. You look at participation. Who is trading? Which countries are trading? What does the rest of the world look like? Liquidity, you know, how many traders are in this asset, volume. Also, we look at stability and regulatory changes. So what does that mean? When the Eurozone, when you hear Mario Draghi announce that they are willing to change monetary law, when they're ready to change the way that that law governs not corporate finance, but government finance, when Germany is given when Germany is given the chance to ignore environmental and human rights, well, not human rights, I wouldn't go that far, but basically they're able to bend different laws in order to increase production. That's when I pay attention. That's interesting. When laws change to suit business, that's interesting. And so when we look at this graph here, this is a great indicator to show you what's going on with speculative interest. How willing are people to put money and risk it in order to get some sort of returns? I want to tell you right now that the US stock market is way overvalued. It is a huge bubble that it's not ready to burst. It's not going to burst, but it is huge bubble. People like Warren Buffett are having difficulty investing because there's nothing that is worth it, right? You want to buy low and sell high. Right now, everything is high. Right now, the whole stock market is overblown, so there's not enough positions to get in for professional investors. So let's look at the rest of the world. Let's have a look at different indexes like the neighbors. Let's have a look at the DAX, the German DAX, right? Have we gotten to all-time highs? Not even close, right? We did have this large move up following the move of the S&P, but not even close to the top. What about the Nikkei 225? Not even close. This is the Japanese stock market, really far from all-time highs. Let's have a look at the UK stock market. Again, we have not even been able to beat the highs of 2019. Guys, there is not enough market participation in the indexes. So keep an eye out, and I'll give you guys some great trade ideas for the time to come. So the SPY, the S&P 500, is growing despite deteriorating fundamental data. Underlying market conditions are floundering, and this growth right here, I am really skeptical of how much this is going to continue growing, right? Let's talk about short-term market conditions. What can we make money on today, this week, right? Where is the money? Where is the movement? Well, let's talk about auto tariffs for a sec. So auto tariffs are off of the, on Sunday, the Bank of International Settlements actually came out with a report. Now, they're usually very bearish and they're very, reserved in their analysis and prognosis, but the report that they came out with was very, how do I put it? It was quite positive. It was upbeat. They were certain that the monetary policies that central banks use across the world would have an effect, that it would change the course of, this economic slump that we're currently in right now. So let's talk about what's going to happen when all the currencies devaluate. Well, there's one beautiful asset that plays the role of a safe haven when all currencies fall, when all money loses its value. Gold grows. Let's have a look at the graph of gold. And here we go to commodities and click on gold. This is a great opportunity for everybody to get in on a really nice trade. Now, because this is available on, right here you guys see the return on investment is pitiful, 10%. I would not recommend opening any positions on something like that. But you have the opportunity to trade gold for the long term. If you go onto the Forex platform like I have here, you guys have this opportunity to get in on gold for a really long time. So you can open a position for gold and hold it. Now, keep in mind that the Federal Reserve is lowering interest rates. The Eurozone is printing money and ready to lower interest rates below zero. Japanese and Swiss governments are also ready to do that despite being in negative territory. The Royal Reserve Bank of Australia is lowering interest rates this week. I believe it is on Tuesday that we're having that's right, on Tuesday the Royal Bank of Australia, Reserve Bank, is lowering interest rates all across the world. All banks are right now in a race to dump their currency, to make sure that in this atmosphere of competitive export economies, everybody is ready to do whatever it takes just to make sure that their businesses keep making money, including lowering the value of their own currency. So right now we have a really big SMA on the graph right here. Let's go ahead and lower that to 20 or maybe 22, which is a full month of trading. Not a really good picture because there's not something that we can get in right away. So what we're going to do is slap on another indicator. Let's go ahead and put on the MACD. This is much better. Do you guys see here on the MACD on the bottom where we have the green line ready to cross over the red? And also the histogram is, very, very close to dropping back over the top territory. This is what we're waiting for, guys. This is the trade that we want to get in on. We can even get a smaller SMA in the period of 5, which we have already surpassed. Let's go ahead and make it 12. Just to give us additional confirmation where we have it, and then perhaps so basically this is what I wanted to show you guys. So right here for gold could be a great buying opportunity. The rest of the world is going to continue to devalue their currency. Also, there's a lot of tension in the world. So Russia-US relations are not so good. US-India trade relations might go bad as well. We have the US-Iran situation. I'm sure you guys have heard that Iran, there's military actions in the Middle East. That's always bad for business and always good for gold and oil. So now that we know those things, we have this opportunity to trade. So gold, please keep an eye out. This is the one asset that I'm really bullish on. We had a nice healthy correction. Like, I love that we corrected. Like on the daily graph, this is what I love to see, right? We corrected. We're hanging around the 11. Actually, that doesn't really matter to us, the 11 SMA, but we're continuing going higher. And as you see the histogram on the MACD, right, these blue lines, they went from negative to positive to positive to really positive. So everything is speaking about gold continuing. Now, I do want to remind you that the G20 meeting ended in a very positive atmosphere, so it could very well lead to an additional fall in gold, like we could fall further. But in the global scheme of things, in the global picture of things, we could have a nice move up. Now, let's have a look at what entry point would be best. Again, we can have a confirmation here and here, but also I would recommend waiting until at least these two levels have been surpassed, 1392 and 1396. The reason being, and another thing to keep in mind, 1400 is going to be a correctionary period, right? So we are going to drop or get up to 1400, and more than likely we're going to have a correction. So if for those of you that are scalping and that are using both the options platform and the Forex platform, you can open a trade for the long term to grow on the Forex platform, and then when price comes up here to 1400, you can then go ahead and short gold from that level. So really something to keep an eye out. Let's have a look at the currencies that are range bound. Oh, I think we already had a look at them. Euro, pound, and let's have a look at the Aussie dollar. There has been a really strong, move for the Aussie dollar in the last little while, but this is after a long period of growth. So again, the Aussie, the Euro. What we could have with the Aussie dollar is a little bit of a deeper correction, but like I said, for this currency pair, I'm pretty certain that it's going to stay in the range. Okay, let's get rid of these Fibonacci levels. So within this range right here, I'm going to go ahead and drop this down, we're most likely to stay. And another great trade idea. So I promised you guys a good trade idea for today. Let's go ahead and have a look at the pound yen. Now you guys, this is just the pound dollar. You guys have seen the pound recover from a really long fall. We went from 32 down all the way to 26. So more than 6 cents difference within a few months. That's quite a huge drop. But if we have a look at the pound yen, this picture looks a lot different, right? And talking about trend lines, remember you guys, we talked about trend lines. Well, we have the simple moving average as a long-term trend line. And our first desire to break through was, negated. And then next desire to break through, and now boom, we broke through and we're still here. Now, what I would need for a bear trade, or sorry, a bullish trade, is for the pound to really show some decisiveness, and also it's wise to keep in mind who the next prime minister will be. Right now it looks like Boris Johnson will be the prime minister, and that's not necessarily good or bad for the economy, because his stance is that he's willing to have a no deal Brexit, but he's a really hard-line conservative, so he hasn't made his policy towards trade very clear, and I think it's purposefully done so that he has room to negotiate with his team as they see fit. Nonetheless, this currency looks like a great trading opportunity. We want to have confirmation on a few different graphs and also on a few different time frames before we go ahead and open the position. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that on the daily time frame, we break through a previous level, either of 137 or of 138. On the hourly time frame, we stay above this level. It's very important that we stay above this level. If we do dip down below there, right, and then speaking of 136, dip down again, that would negate this trade absolutely. But we want to break through this level right here, 137, for certain. And then on the 10-minute time frame, right, we want to see the simple moving average tilted up and not down. Right here in the last few hours, it's been a down move. That's not what we want to see. But again, I'm addressing your attention to this currency pair so that you can be prepared for the coming week ahead. And last but not least, actually it's not last, I'll have a few more currencies for you guys. Let's have a look at oil, because we have the OPEC meeting. It's starting in 25 minutes. I do recommend that you guys watch it if you have that opportunity to do so, or at least read what the results are, because that will absolutely impact the price of oil heavily. And it looks like we are tilted and going up, right? It looks like we're continuing with the uptrend. Brent crude oil has broken through this really important level of 66.25, and this is all relating to the OPEC meeting, right? Some energy minister somewhere probably leaked some news, but what we're waiting for right now, the news to watch out for in the OPEC meeting, is if production cuts are still going to be in effect, and also if there's going to be any change to the production cuts. So as you know, OPEC, they produce a lot of the world's oil, and the effects of their meeting have a widespread effect on the price of oil. Brent crude, WTI, the Russian sort of the Urals, all sorts of oil, even though they're not a part of OPEC, all those marks of oil that I mentioned, nonetheless they're affected. But these are the assets that we trade on. We trade Brent crude oil. So that's what I want you guys to keep an eye out for. And as the stock markets across the world grow, like you guys saw the graphs that I showed you, world stock markets have not been able to break through previous highs of May. If they do, then the price of oil will continue growing, right? If OPEC plays their cards right, if there's a conflict in Iran and in the Middle East is a very oil-rich area, then the price of oil will continue to grow. And I want to make sure that you guys are aware of that. And last but not least, right, as money loses its value, as gold grows, what else is likely to grow? Bitcoin. That's right, you guys. Bitcoin is absolutely one of those assets that is not really reliable in the short term because there's crazy swings of ups and downs, but it is definitely that one currency or that one asset that really has a lot of market movement to it. And this is just a good old triangle pattern. I want you guys to make sure that you're aware of when you should get in long for a high probability trade, and that's where the beauty of trend lines comes in. We just draw that trend line from top to bottom. Maybe that's a little too much right there. And then another trend line from this level here. I think I'll take it from there. And let's color them teal. Actually, let's give it a little bit more oomph. I want to color them red because this is a really strong level that I want to watch. As you can see, Bitcoin is getting really crazy again. We got up to 13,000, 14,000 for gold. Right now we are at 10 and above it. We are above 10,000. So one of those really great assets that you need to watch, and we want to get in above whatever simple moving average you're using, but then have a break of this level here. Anytime we break through this level, I do believe that that is a strong buy. I want to go ahead and answer one last question. So Wamik Sheik asking great questions. Awesome on you, my friend. Scalping is short-term trading. It is trading very, very small time frames like the 1 minute, the 10-minute, something that you get in and out of a trade really quick. You take more trades throughout the day, so you have more losses, but because you're in more of the moves throughout the week, then you have a better profit in the end anyway. But I do recommend that once you learn a little bit more about trading, because it is a really technical type of trading. You have to consider a lot of different markets, different factors, different news catalysts at the same time, and it's very stressful. So you have to have your economic calendar open. You need to have your S&P 500, your gold, and your oil graph open at the same time. You do have to watch your asset very closely, because throughout the day there can be moves when there's absolutely nothing going on. Gold sometimes moves when there's absolutely nothing going on. Yeah, that's it. Alright guys, that's it for today's webinar. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and leave me a thumbs up. That way we know that you enjoyed it. Also, if you have anything that you want to listen to next Monday, go ahead and write it in commentary. Not in chat right now because we're going to disable it as soon as the webinar is over, but go ahead and leave a comment at the end of the video. That will help us to understand which way you guys want to take the webinars. My name is Yaroslav Burchenko. It's been a pleasure together here with you. I wish you guys good luck trading out there, and see you on Thursday. Peace!